We're continuing our talk about the Castle Moan and the future, and really, I suppose the question is, what will you do in there? Will you change it? And how many people are going to be there? Is it, well, you know, take it away.
Castle Moan needs to be a castle. It needs to be an actual palace again. I believe that where we are right now as an island requires that we have to, in a way, reestablish what that identity is, and not necessarily just the Manx identity, but the identity for the world, the Isle of Man being a destination place for something. And I believe that that something is the fact that we are able to hold visionaries, people that can think about the future, and also research, design, and develop innovation, what the world will essentially use and be like in years to come.
We've brought a lot of people here to the island in the last 3 years. You know, some really well-known people within their fields. You know, industrialists, innovators, academics that are looking for a place in the world that could start to unify the species. And around cultural diplomacy, things like academic advancement and industrial innovation. The castle then has an opportunity through research, design and development to actually be, in its first instance, an academic project, a renovation project. But we can also bring corporations and other departments to start to futurize how we live in the future and develop new practices of building, so new green building practices, new green building technologies. We aim to actually power the castle just through the movement of people. We're able to store that through using the Ryden battery, and we've got a partnership with PJP to develop that technology.
And how do you pay for this then? I mean,
So we're privately funded. Up to this point, the research and design has all been privately funded.
Absolutely.
With a couple of patrons and people assisting ad hoc. We had envisaged that we would go into the development stage a lot earlier, and I imagine we'd be living in a nicer house than we are at the moment, probably the castle. Yeah. But ultimately, you know, it's really about keeping things safe. The moment you do a deal with someone, you can lose a sovereignty over.
Some people might be thinking it's a cult in some way. You know, like you have to put money in, and you all.
No. Yeah.
Well, you know, you can see. Like,
if we were a cult, we're a pretty bad cult because we haven't actually taken money off of people.
Yeah.
How have you got the 1 point? What is it, at 1.8?
So no, we made an offer back in November, and that was through the owner or majority shareholder of PJP, and so they bought a £10 million joint venture presentation here to present to government, and this is to bring carbon engineering here, so to advance carbon manufacturing. They're one of the world's leaders in carbon manufacturing, and they have contracts with the UN, with Palestine, Kurdistan, to actually bring energy and economies to areas that otherwise would not get them. And so the CEO wanted to privately purchase that for us and use his technology within it. Unfortunately, the offer was rejected. We understand.
What, the Sefton rejected it? I mean, I'm not sure he said the majority. It is the Seftons, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Yeah, the Seftons are the owners.
So that you offered them this money, and the Seftons said no.
Yep, there was a rejection of the offer.
Can I ask how much it was again? Sorry.
We'd offered 1.8.
You did go 1.8.
Yeah.
And they want. Do we know what the actual official?
I think it's about speed. I think it's really about. I think there are other people interested in the castle. Okay. You know, I think. I don't know whether it's because there's an academic study attached to it or there's an urgency, but you know there is interest.
So you're not the only player in town?
I don't think we're the only player in town, and I think, you know, commercially, if I was the Seftons, I'd want to do the same thing. I'd just want to sell as quickly as possible. So our job now is to put together another offer that has speed attached to it. Unfortunately, we won't be able to use our funder because they pulled out. They were. You know, there were some issues that they wanted to address, to continue to address.
So the minute you haven't got that money to hand over at all,
no.
It may not go to you then yet. I mean, it could go to anybody, right?
It's still. I mean, ultimately, the castle's. You know, our job was to save the castle. The castle's held now in academia, and it wasn't before. So in that respect, you know, we're moving down. We're progressing. Ultimately, we believe we've got the best opportunities to make that castle
and to realise
a
the
special
future
place,
for it,
but also make it a landmark for the island. People we have spoken to have suggested that a members club is something that's needed for the island. You know, we've brought dignitaries over here. There's nowhere for them to really stay. There's no 5-star accommodation for them to stay. And everything closes at 3 in the morning. I work until 6 in the morning. So do my colleagues. We're in contact with Japan, Hawaii, Australia. This is an international island.
So what's the feeling? The mood music, do you think you've still got a chance? Or, I mean, I know you're doing this interview today. Is this because you're going public? Because you haven't done much publicity yet. I mean, is this you're trying to tell people you're starting the story more? I think
where we are at the moment is that hopefully in the next couple of weeks we'll be able to put together a team, and we would like to either raise the money publicly or certainly re-interview some of the candidate funders that we've spoken to before. Bearing in mind, we have rejected funding. Our organisation has rejected funding for many years now. He's been approached by very large corporations since he was a very young scientist who were trying to purchase his technology. My background is working in a similar field where I funded and raised money for classified technology. And it's a very, very tricky way of raising money. And so sometimes it's best not to take money. And that's where we've been at the moment. So our next phase really is to put a team together. We have been approached. We were written to, when we went public recently, we were written to by a lot of people on the island. There's a lot of support. And so that really encouraged us. And it's them that are helping us take the next move.
Well, it's been fascinating talking to you. I'm sure it's been for hours, actually. Lots and lots of people have questions. Yeah. But I mean, you're seeing you're open, you want dialogue with people. And,
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Your website, I think, have you, or contact details?
Yes, it should. Absolutely.
I think so, yeah. I think we take it down because we were going to be a foundation, and we've gone through the process of putting forward paperwork for foundation, but actually it may not be the ideal model for us. Unfortunately, this world favours a limited company. It has more rights than a human being, which is not something we're necessarily, it's something we want to address. But
well, come back anytime you want, and if you do get it, I want the cameras in there straight away, right? I want to see it, what it's like. Obviously, we're desperate to see.
Of course.
Yes.
But your passion's incredible, guys. I mean, people will make of you what they want to make of you, but I guess, you're very, well, it's different, isn't it? I mean, let's face it, it's something that's slightly different.
But I also think that, it's important to labor this is the fact that the problem with the Castlemaine isn't a recent issue. It's not necessarily the government or the Sefton Group or any party that's actually been a problem to this. This is a 212-year-old issue. So I know that some people would like to, point the finger, specifically, Minx Public, will want to say, well, it's this person's fault and that person's fault.
It's collective.
It's a collective issue.
It's collective.
And, and I believe that it requires the entire community
to come
together and
collective.
to find it. Yeah, absolutely.